I'm in the process of pulling this order, which has the coolest colors. I'm not sure what he's going to be doing with these, but he's getting a lot of the trans neon green and the trans bright green colors, which is really cool. So I'm curious what he's going to be doing with it. But while I was doing this order, I came across a couple of issues. He wanted the pearl light gray. Oh, try to get rid of the shadow here. The pearl light gray part, and you'll see this part is a different color, but it's just faded, because if I put it over on this side, you can see that it's pretty close to the same thing. So he wanted all of them. I had 22, and I'm going to have to pull this one out. And then the other issue I had is he got these light blue gray modified bricks with pins, and as I was pulling them, I realized one of them's broke. So I've already come across 2 issues with this order, and I'm only on page 2 of 5 pages. So let's see how the rest of the order goes. The order is now complete, and luckily those were the only 2 parts that I had issues with. I'm going to have to contact the buyer and offer credit for those 2 parts since I don't have any left in my store. Hopefully he'll be understanding. To me, this is the most nerve-wracking part, is contacting the buyer when you're missing a part, because you never know how they're going to react. So I'll get this bagged up and hopefully be able to get it in the mail tomorrow. Good morning from Big Sky Country. I'm Stacy, owner of Montana Used Bricks. And I mentioned last week at the end of my video that I might do a video on how I do my financials, and I had several people in the comments say yeah, they wanted to see that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that this week. Like I said last week, I do it, I don't want to say backwards. I said backwards in the video, but basically I do it a lot differently than other stores do. It's just the way that I started doing it, and I've been doing it that way ever since. I realize if I got a lot more orders, I would have to look at a different way of doing it, but for now this works for me. So let's get right into it. This is the spreadsheet that I use on a daily basis. And this is the one that I said if I had more than 1 to 3 orders per day, I would probably have to look at a different way of doing it. But I've been doing this since the start, and this works really well for me just to get an estimate of how I'm doing throughout the month. As you can see, I put in the date, order number, paid, PayPal fees, postage fees, state sales tax, number of parts, and my cost. And then there's a formula in the profit which shows the paid minus all the fees and my cost. And my cost is just an estimate. It's not accurate. This is just so that I have a general idea how I'm doing during the month. I also have a column for profit after taxes. Our tax accountant had recommended that we put 30% of the total paid price into a savings account for taxes. She realizes that's really high, that we probably won't use all of that, but she would rather that we had it, and then anything that wasn't used for taxes we could then use for vacations, personal items, or in the case of the last 2 years, we've used it to buy electronics to set up home offices during the pandemic. So it's been nice to have that extra money come March after we do our taxes. At the bottom of the sheet, I have the grand total for the year, all the costs for this year. I've had 452 orders so far this year. This is just my average per order, just so I can see an approximate of how many parts I sell per order. This is for September so far, just through the 4th, and this is what I look at throughout the month to see if I'm on track. This is my monthly average since I've opened on what I get per month, the fees, and then what I look at is this profit. And this is kind of my goal every month, is to at least make this monthly average. In August, I finally made my monthly average. I hadn't done that since April, so I was very happy with what we did in August. So far this year, we seem to be doing pretty good. I'm not sure how the rest of the month will come out, but the first couple of days have been pretty good. We've already sold over 1,000 parts in 4 days. This over here is just something I like to look at. It reminds me when I'm having a bad month that it could always be worse. And this is just kind of something that reminds me that it is possible to have really good months here on Bricklink. I have a bunch of other columns. I have a column for taxes. This is just making sure that I have enough in savings to cover the taxes for the year. These are the monthly expenses. This is still August. I haven't cleared it out for September yet, but this just gives me an idea of how I'm doing overall. August, I'm going to definitely be in the red because I did spend $412 on inventory, which is a lot more than what I usually spend, but I did get that pretty big haul that I did that video for. I also keep track. I wish I would have done this last year because I actually closed down quite a bit during 2020 just because we were so busy and I was also so busy with work that I was stressing out, and I closed down quite a while throughout the year, and I kind of wish I would have kept track of the days. So this year I decided I was going to keep track of how many days I've closed. And usually if I'm closed, I'm usually on vacation or not feeling well, which was the case in January and February. And April, we actually got away for a couple days, so I closed down. Some of the other tabs, my used tab shows my cost, what I pay for inventory. Like I said, that's kind of my secret on what I pay. And then these are the new parts that were bought the last couple of years. The missing parts are what I have bought off of Bricklink since I started as a member in 2015. So I've spent quite a bit of money on Bricklink as a buyer. And this just gives me a breakdown of what it costs per part with the shipping, just to kind of give me an idea of what I end up paying. The parts total tab, kind of a nerd when it comes to spreadsheets. I just like to figure things out on spreadsheets. So this was just all the parts that I have bought since even before I opened my store. I was buying parts on eBay just for personal use. And so these are all the parts that I bought used, all the parts that I've bought on Bricklink, plus the new parts that we've bought and sets we've parted out. These are the amount of parts I've taken out of inventory to use towards sets, and that's actually out of date. I haven't updated that for a while. And then these are all the parts that I've sold since I opened my store. If I was to get the 7 containers behind me into inventory, I would probably have over 185,000 parts in inventory. So I definitely need to get busy if I want to get my inventory up. And then the rest are just previous year's sales and information from the previous years. This is the spreadsheet that I look at every day. Then I have a monthly spreadsheet that I use at the end of the month. This just shows the total for the month. So you can see in August that I finally got my monthly average, but before that, it was kind of a dry spell for my store. The best month that I had was in 2020, April of 2020, when everybody was home in lockdown. And I actually closed down, I think, for 5 or 6 days at the end of the month because I was so overwhelmed by the amount of orders that we were getting and the size and volume of the orders as well. The other tab on this spreadsheet just has the yearly totals for each of those, just so I can see the year at a glance on how we did with the number of orders and the number of parts that were sold per year, also my profit. And the last sheet, I actually did this one after I watched a couple of videos with other Bricklink stores that were showing their income and expenses, and I created this little spreadsheet. I didn't do this before because I use Quicken for all my accounting, so all that information is in Quicken. But this is just to give you an idea how I've done so far in 2020.
August hasn't been filled in yet because I will do that after I balance my accounts for August. And you can see that I've done fairly well this year. There is one month that it looks like I had a huge expense. That's because I ordered a laptop from HP, and this money was actually used from our savings. So it was basically income from the previous year because it was the tax money that we didn't use. And then you'll see in June that I actually had a plus on the expenses. That's because the HP was taking way too long to ship, and I finally canceled the order and just ordered a Dell with the same specs for less money. I got the full refund, so it looks really good for June. I do occasionally have my grandkids or even my mom come and help me with sorting parts, and that's what this is. Because I haven't really been putting parts into inventory, I really haven't had them come over and help. But I think in the next couple of months, I'm going to be having somebody come help me because I'm really trying to get my inventory up. And those are the spreadsheets that I use to keep track of my income and expenses. So I hope this was helpful to you.
If you have any questions or comments about how I do my financials, feel free to leave a comment, or if you don't feel like doing a comment, you can also reach me on my About page through my Gmail address. So go ahead and send me an email. I would be happy to answer any questions you have. Trying to be a little bit transparent. There's some information I'm keeping to myself, like how much I pay per pound for Lego. But if you do have any questions, feel free to ask. I'd be happy to answer them. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you really liked it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.